Think about when women go through menopause and they lose estrogen. What happens? Bone density goes down, the cardio protection goes down, belly fat increases, the joint pain, all these negative things. And the same thing happens to guys when they block or suppress it. I've seen DEXA scans of guys who have been on a milligram 3 times a week of their bone density is so awful. Like they're 45 and they're about to have osteoporosis. Like it's crazy. But a lot of practitioners will see, oh, estrogen's high. They think it causes ED. They think it causes gyno. They think it causes all these things when it doesn't. And then they scare the patient. And then the patient usually sees that number as like, I'm going to grow boobs. I need to prevent that. I love men. I love you guys, but they usually equate ED. They're like, I have ED because I'm not rock hard 24/7. And I'm like, that's not ED. Like, so you can still get an erection. Like you're okay. Okay. It's not like it was when you were 18. That's okay.
Hello and welcome to Unscripted. We have a very special guest today on our first episode, and we wanted to roll this out with someone very special. She's actually the queen of men's health. Her name is Ali Gilbert. You may recognize her from social media, but she is the founder of Silverback Coaching and the Silverback Summit, which we'll talk more about. But Ali, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be the first guest. So no pressure, must deliver.
Absolutely. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. One thing I love about you is you are unapologetically Ali. You are very authentic. You kind of say what you want to say, and you're not afraid to say it. I love that you're dealing with high performing men all the time, and you're talking about boners and things like that, right? And so I love that you just let it fly. So love to hear kind of your background and how you have arrived at where you're at today.
Yes, that I am who I am in person and online. So yes. To me, I feel authenticity is the biggest way to gain people's trust, because we've all met someone in person that we've seen online and they're like completely different.
Absolutely.
And you're like, who are you? The trust just goes boom. But my degree is in exercise science. So I went to school thinking that I would be doing strength and conditioning. And then you quickly find out that that makes zero money. But it's a fun thing to do. However, kind of have to pay the bills. And I grew up in Greenwich, Connecticut, which is an extremely wealthy town.
Yep.
So I could not live in Greenwich if I wanted to do strength conditioning. And when I left college, I was working in commercial gyms there. And I started training a lot of the guys who were working on Wall Street, who would take the 5 a.m. train, super type A, finance guys, and they all happened to play golf. And I was like, well, this is interesting because I didn't know anything about golf and didn't really think of it as a sport. But all I knew was like, these guys are serious about it. They could afford to pay for training, afford to play golf. There's 9 golf clubs in Greenwich. Wow. And they took this very seriously. And I very much vibed with their personality because I was, no bullshit,
I could see
cut and
it.
dry.
Yep.
So, yeah. And I was like, maybe I should learn about golf because I played soccer in college. I didn't know anything about golf. So I dove headfirst into everything golf fitness because there are golf fitness certifications and you can become a specialist in that. So I learned very quickly that if you specialize in something, not only can you charge more, but people will seek you out. They'll travel a little bit further because no one wants to drive to a gym that's really longer than 10 to 15 minutes from their house, but I'd have guys come from other states just to train with me. So I was like, well, this is interesting. So throughout that process, and this is back in 2008, so throughout the years doing that, a lot of these guys started talking about nutrition, started talking about how they feel like shit, started talking about how they have no energy, no sex drive. And I was like, no one's talking about this with these guys.
Yeah.
And in the fitness industry, there's a lot of women's health emphasis, and actually in the medical field too, as you know. Yeah. So I was like, this is really weird. There's no like men's health education anywhere. So I'll learn what I can. So I went to medical conferences, had no business going there, but I did. Ended up speaking at one of them and just really networked with as many physicians as I could to understand what is their process for blood work and nutrient testing and how do they get guys who can afford all this optimal so they feel good, so they can dominate in the boardroom, in the bedroom, like golf course, wherever.
Yep.
And then fast forward to 2025, I just started focusing on men's health and hormones because there was a gap there because nobody, especially women, no woman was actually talking about it. So I made that my specialty, basically, just to focus on that and kind of bring together the medical and fitness field instead of alienating each other and saying, you know, oh, doctors don't know shit. And then doctors saying, oh, fitness professionals are just meatheads. And I was like, why don't we all just play along in the sandbox?
Love it. Well, and you touched on it, like your clients and at Silverback Coaching. I mean, these are guys that really can afford to work with anybody. I mean, they have their choice. And so they choose you. And it's because you do kind of cover the whole gamut of someone's life, from blood work all the way to fitness, nutrition, sleep, all of that. Talk a little bit about how you've kind of incorporated all those pieces together, especially kind of the blood work piece. A lot of our audience is practitioners. They might own clinics and things like that. Love to hear about how you kind of treat that.
So I encourage very much for fitness professionals to collaborate with doctors or clinicians.
Yep.
So now, we all know the legalities of that are a little bit tricky because you can't profit off a medical service. So a lot of coaches think, oh, I sent this doctor all these clients and they haven't done anything for me. And I'm like, well, they can't. Legally, they just can't.
Yep.
Unless you are actually in a partnership with them or some form of actual business relationship. So I said the best thing to do is to go to these clinics or use them for yourself. Go through the process. Learn how they have customer service. What type of experience is it, so that you feel confident suggesting that your clients can go to that. Because early on, and I'm talking like 2012, like before you could buy blood work online, I would form relationships with doctors like locally in Greenwich. And if they didn't have a good customer service model or something like that, it would reflect poorly on me. So our client would get pissed if things were like ignored or not addressed. So finally, like when you could buy blood work online, I was like, cool, let's do that. And then we can find a physician somewhere. So hard. And then thank God telehealth just exploded, because then it allowed us to have freedom, especially for the online space, for people to get serviced in all 50 states. Because even to this day, people are like, hey, do you have a doctor in like the middle of nowhere, Idaho? And I'm like, no. But I got plenty of telehealth practitioners that we could work with. So the best thing about the collaboration is we all kind of stay in our own lane. So we handle the nutrition, supplementation, exercise, lifestyle, all that stuff. And then if the physicians handle all the testing and the pharmaceuticals, putting that together just elevates the patient experience, results. People stay longer, so the retention rate for both sides is a lot higher. And people feel like, oh, I've got like everything taken care of from a performance standpoint, versus going to a physician who maybe doesn't understand active athletic men or women, and they hear conflicting information, and then they have their coaches telling them one thing. Nobody has time to manage these opinions. They just need everyone to talk. So if both parties talk and the person feels like, wow, my medical fitness team are on the same page, then shit, they're not going anywhere.
Exactly. No, I think you nailed it. And you said a term that I use all the time, which is optimal or optimized, right? And it's a matter of getting everything to work together. I mean, I know personally, I've been on testosterone replacement for about 10 years. And it wasn't until about 7 or 8 years into that where I really optimized it, because I brought in everything, the nutrition, the training, all of that working together. It's one thing to just throw medications at one thing, and it's another thing to really have them all working together. And so what you do is extremely valuable, especially for high performing men and the stresses and everything else that go into that. Talk a little bit, because you have been in the game a long time and you've seen hundreds of clients. When you see blood work from these guys, what are you usually, I mean, what's a common thing that you see in blood work with high performing men, as an example, if there's a way to generalize it?
Low testosterone, hypothyroid, some of them mostly borderline inflammation. The lipid panel usually is out of control, glucose, hemoglobin A1C. Like those are like the main things usually. And another thing that also helps this experience like be more efficient is, okay, well, the glucose, the inflammation, like a lot of the lipid markers, a lot of that stuff we can take care of through diet and exercise.
Exactly.
Because another thing guys hate doing is taking a truckload of supplements.
Yes.
Like they just don't want to take pills.
Yes.
So if we can get them to where, okay, are they like qualified and ready to go on TRT? Then we know, okay, that might actually bump thyroid a little bit as well. It's going to bring down glucose. It's going to bring down lipid markers. And then you combine that with the diet and exercise, things can only improve with the minimal amount of supplementation and or pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
So usually it's overwhelming for them because when they go to a GP, they're told, oh, you're fine, you're normal, everything's good.
Exactly.
And I'm like, cool, I don't go by normal. Send me your labs and nothing is correct.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so when you, as an example, you have these guys that are coming to you with low testosterone as an example. Obviously, there's ways to increase that, sleep, diet, exercise. Are those the kind of the tools you start with? Are there some natural remedies that you would recommend, or would you kind of take somebody right over to, testosterone replacement and to actually supplement with exogenous testosterone? How do you kind of look at that, and what tools do you work with to increase that as an example?
So I'm very pro testosterone. A lot of our guys know that. We do have guys who come in and they're like, I'm not ready, because it is a commitment. And it's actually like the lifelong commitment is the biggest thing that they can't really get over.
Right.
It's not, it comes in a needle or a cream or, anything else. It's more, this is for life.
Yep.
So we say to them, well, let's spend as much time as we can getting everything sorted, because you're going to have to address the lifestyle stuff regardless if you go on testosterone.
Yep.
And then see where we end up. And honestly, after doing this for so long, like more often than not, testosterone levels don't budge or they even go lower. And guys will get annoyed, but I'm like, listen, at least now you can say you did everything you were supposed to do from a lifestyle standpoint to get yourself in the best possible position to now go on testosterone and have a good experience on it.
Yeah.
So we don't do enclomiphene or HCG monotherapy. Like if you need testosterone, you probably need to go on testosterone. So obviously it's subjective depending on what their situation is and where they are in terms of, do they want to conceive? More often than not, if they don't want to conceive like yesterday, then they can go on testosterone and then we can put them on a fertility protocol because we know they're going to feel better.
Yeah.
But I mean, sometimes there's guys that's like, dude, you're so deep in the hole. We don't know how long you've been here, but you don't feel good. You have all the symptoms, it's time.
It's time to go. Just do it right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's interesting. So, one case, when I first started on testosterone replacement, I was carrying probably 20 pounds of excess body fat that actually really, with testosterone, I didn't get the results that I wanted to, even with exogenous testosterone. And so what I found personally is that sometimes, obviously through diet and exercise, getting somebody into, better shape, and we can use things like GLP-1s or to help lose some of that body fat. Have you found anything there? I just find that sometimes when we have overweight guys hop into testosterone replacement, they can turn estrogenic. It can have some more negative side effects, if you will. I'm just curious if you've encountered that.
Yeah, actually, Dave Lee taught me that guys who are really overweight, now we don't get a ton of guys who are obese, but we get guys that they probably have like 20 pounds or less body fat to lose. It's always more than they think. Yeah. But we found Dave said that a lot of them do well on the cream initially because it bypasses some of the aromatization and more pushes towards DHT. So they don't have some of those same side effects. Not to say they are estrogenic side effects, but more so the water retention and the higher blood pressure and stuff like that from injections. They don't really experience that in the cream. So if they want to start on cream, and also it boosts sex drive a little bit more, so they likely are struggling with that if they're really overweight. Yeah. So then if they want to switch to injections when they get leaner, then they have the option to do that as well.
Yep.
But that's why, like, we're huge advocates of, like, you're going to have to address the lifestyle stuff anyway. And that's why it'll be a better experience going on testosterone because, yeah, if they're extremely overweight, you already have a ton of inflammation in your body.
Exactly.
So why are you going to add a hormone that your body's like, yo, I'm trying to suppress this because this is an inflammatory environment. It's not healthy.
Yeah.
Someone who's this overweight is not supposed to have these optimal testosterone levels. So the body can kind of freak out and they don't really feel the best. So they may not trust going on testosterone. And those are the guys that are like, oh, well, I tried going on TRT. It didn't work for me.
Exactly.
I didn't feel good. Or,
Yeah.
you know, they're on a stupid protocol or something like that.
Absolutely. And speaking of overweight people, obviously there's a craze in our country. I mean, 70% of our population is obese, you know, technically obese. Obviously GLP-1s, semaglutide, tirzepatide have really become a craze here. And I'm just curious, a lot of fitness coaches are against those. They think it's cheating. They think it's, you know, not the right thing for folks to do, that it should be done via diet and exercise. I'm curious to hear your stance on these GLP-1s and, you know, the right way to use them, the wrong way to use them. How have you used them with different clients and your take?
Yeah, we do use them with clients. I want to say when they like exploded, which was what, 2020, I think.
Yeah.
So much of the fitness industry was like vehemently against. And I was like, doesn't bother me. And people hated me for that. And I was like, it's a tool. Like, it's like cardio is a tool. Lifting weights is a tool. Like, if this gets somebody the initial results that gets them off the couch, but also if it brings down some dangerous blood markers that gets them healthier to get them going, why are we against that?
Yeah.
And it just blew my mind because I think they thought maybe like job security was at risk or, you know, I'm like, so if you're going to say that GLP-1s are cheating, then that's basically the same as people who say testosterone's cheating, you know? So it really, it annoyed me that a lot of fitness professionals were taking that stance.
Yeah.
And I think we've come a long way in the education for people as to why you have to get adequate protein intake and why you actually have to eat.
Yeah.
And a lot of our clients, like, they're not dealing with obesity, but maybe they just want to take the edge off, and it works phenomenal. I've used it a ton. Like, I'm more of a fan of tirzepatide than semaglutide, but for me, I'm like, this makes dieting way easier. Why wouldn't 100%. I do it?
100%. Absolutely. And I microdose it year round. I find that it brings down inflammation in my body. I just feel great all the time. No brain fog. So it's not a matter of necessarily losing weight. It's feeling good, honestly.
Yeah. That's what I do. I want to say like a year and a half, I've been microdosing it, and people are like, oh my God. Like, I'm like, it's not nuking my appetite. I'm not at the dosages that they would give true diabetics. And I don't think people are aware, or at least a lot of the fitness industry is not aware, that you could actually do like a mini dose, and it literally is just enough to help what you were saying and take down the inflammation and, you know, the food noise that everyone talks about. Like, I love sweets. I love donuts. I love cinnamon rolls. Like, you could plant those things in front of me and I'd be like, cool.
Yeah, exactly. Well, in your practice, again, you've been doing this a long time, and you've worked with a lot of different medical professionals, and you've seen the good, the bad, the ugly. You know, in testosterone replacement specifically and hormone optimization, what are some areas that you see practitioners maybe dropping the ball, or areas that they could improve? Any best practices that you see to really help a guy get optimized?
So this was one of the reasons why I created Silverback Summit, which is my men's health event, was to bring together physicians with fitness professionals, because there's like zero to minimal men's health education at the other organizations or the big time medical conferences. So a lot of like, I live in South Florida, and there's a TRT clinic every 5 minutes behind the gas stations. Like, you can find them anywhere. And they all give out what we call the cookie cutter starter pack, which is 200 milligrams once a week with anastrozole and like ganaterelin or HCG or enclomiphene. So that's one way to drop the ball. A big thing is the 1,000 number. Like, a lot of doctors will see 1,000 when a guy hits that number and then freak out and lower his dose just based simply off that lab number.
Yeah.
We have guys who are 1100, 1200, 1300, like they feel amazing. So nothing else is affected negatively. So there's really no reason to lower them just because it says 1,000.
Yeah.
The blood donation, like, blows my mind because I've heard everything from I've been told to donate every month to maybe I should do twice a month. And I'm like, what? I'm like, oh my God. Surefire way to make a guy anemic.
Yes.
And it's not understanding how testosterone works, especially like if they did their shot the night before, then of course they're going to be super high, like taking all of that into account. And then blocking estrogen is a big one. Like Silverback is heavy on the education with that. And it's like somebody who's on an anastrozole, I'm like, cool, we need to not go where you're going.
Yeah. I want to talk about that because again, on testosterone replacement, I used anastrozole for years. And honestly, I would have joint pain. I was tired because I was crushing my estrogen and I didn't need to. And I don't use any of that anymore. And I don't have any estrogenic side effects, but maybe expand on that a little bit if you would. Just why, again, that's that starter pack that a lot of clinics give is, take anastrozole once a week or, 24 hours after each injection, what have you. And we're pushing people against that. And I'm just curious to hear if you can expand a little bit more on that.
Yeah. And there's some clinics that compound it in the testosterone.
Yes.
Like it's wild. So I learned the majority of this from Dr. Jordan Grant, who's also at Silverback. And he basically went as far as taking estradiol off his lab panels because he was like, I can't deal with guys freaking out when it's high.
Yeah.
So he has explained the science behind it. And actually this year I said, can your talk just be a deep dive on estrogen and like the science behind all this? Because we talk about it every year, but we don't go like super deep. So the analogy that usually works is if you think about when women go through menopause and they lose estrogen, what happens? Bone density goes down, the cardioprotection goes down, belly fat increases, the joint pain, all these negative things. And the same thing happens to guys when they block or suppress it. So if we've taken guys, which I've seen DEXA scans of guys who have been on like, a milligram 3 times a week of anastrozole, their bone density is so awful. Like they're 45 and they're about to have osteoporosis. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
So Jordan also talks about how serum lab measurements of estradiol are not true or not a true reflection of what is actually in guys because it is a paracrine hormone in men.
Yeah.
So he's just taking it off the panel just because he's like, I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, interesting.
But a lot of practitioners will see, estrogen's high. They think it causes ED. They think it causes gyno. They think it causes all these things when it doesn't. And then they scare the patient. And then the patient usually sees that number as like, I'm going to grow boobs. I need an anastrozole to prevent that.
Yeah.
So it's a huge topic in the TRT world. It is debated heavily. I think we're making headway with the education on how it's actually a good thing that the benefit of the conversion of testosterone into estrogen is one of the primary benefits of TRT in and of itself.
Yep.
And the reason why aromatization occurs in very overweight guys is because estrogen is basically like trying to be oppose the inflammation, and that's why it increases.
Yep.
And Dr. Neil Rouzier talks a lot about this, how he's even given guys estrogen therapy who suffer from low estrogen. So when men come in, they're not on TRT, but if they come in with low testosterone, you could pretty much assume that they have low estrogen as well because they're not getting that conversion. And that's why a lot of guys deal with joint problems when they get older and they just don't feel so good. And then their bone density is not as good. So there's a massive benefit to it. And there's a huge detriment to blocking it and suppressing it over long periods of time.
Yep. That's good. You mentioned one thing about ED, and I know that you're not afraid to talk about sexual health for men. It is still, a lot of guys don't like to talk about it. 10 years ago, it was very taboo. It was very something, wasn't talked about. But today it's becoming more and more kind of mainstream, if you will, it's okay to talk about. A lot of guys suffer from ED, especially as they get older. Testosterone replacement can help with that. But what are some of the tools that you use in order to get a man back his mojo?
It's also the discussion has to educate them as to what ED is, because I love men, I love you guys, but they usually equate ED. They're like, I have ED because I'm not rock hard 24/7, and I'm like, that's not ED. Like, so you can still get an erection, like you're okay. Okay, it's not like it was when you were 18.
Exactly.
That's okay.
Yeah.
You know, they think, oh, I go on testosterone, I should, want to like bang every 5 minutes. And I'm like, that's not normal. That's not what happens. And there's a minimal effect sometimes for testosterone to improve that, because we know it's like multifactorial, and it so much goes into it, because if someone's stressed out 24/7, your body's not like, yo, let's go procreate. Like, your body's like, I'm just trying to keep you alive.
Exactly.
So especially like the high performers, they're, mainlining like adrenaline and cortisol all day long. And then they're like, well, why can't I get a hard on? And it's like, dude, your body is wondering like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
So it's talking it through that way. Like, okay, is it truly ED, or are you just, not a porn star yet?
Yeah. And so how would you fix that with somebody that was obviously stressed out going through that? Would you, give them tools like Cialis or Viagra or even Trimix, or would you try to kind of hit the root, or both concurrently?
We do have a lot of guys on low dose Cialis, like daily, for endothelial health.
Yep.
If they're very deconditioned, this is where cardio is very beneficial. And this is actually the best way to get guys to do cardio, because they hate doing cardio. It's like, yo, you'll get more boners if you get more aerobically fit. And they're like, oh. So I'm like, cardio gives you nice rock hard boners. And they're like, oh. So that could help, obviously, because the vascularity and, having healthy arteries and veins and cardiovascular health, because they don't put the connection together between, if they smoked previously, or if they have any heart attacks or any cardiovascular risk, that having ED actually is like your body saying, yo, you might be at risk for one of these things, so you should probably get your shit together and get healthy. Yeah. They don't connect it to that at all.
Yeah.
So they just think testosterone means muscles and hard-ons. They don't think of all the other benefits that it provides from, a neurological perspective, or just a vitality, similar to how they don't think that exercise and getting conditioned aerobically can actually benefit them from an erection standpoint.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you, one of the big products that's being pushed, I know, by some of the big telemedicine companies is Trimix. I don't know do you have any patients that or clients that have used that? I know that's being pushed hard. No, not with the clinics that we've worked with. Yeah. Has it been pushed? We've had a couple guys who have done like Gainswave and stuff like that, but nobody has suffered that greatly to need it. Got it. Knock on wood. And unintended. Out there's a lot of kind of natural remedies. I'm just curious if you've experimented with those with clients, and what's effective, what's not effective. Some of the natural herbs and things like that. Just curious. No, we've had guys who've come in taking like Tribulus and Fedosia and all these things, and I'm like, that doesn't work. Yeah, good. Well, and you talked about nutrition. I'd love to hear a little bit about kind of your overall philosophy on where are we falling short? Like, where, as high performing guys, what do you generally see as far as where we're falling short nutritionally? We're all busy guys. We got a lot going on, going out to eat, doing different business dinners, et cetera. Where can we improve? Well, I will say, like, I love this topic because a lot of guys still default to what worked for them in the past, which is always fasting, low carb, carnivore. Yes. And they're like, that really worked really well for me. And I'm like, keyword is worked, like in past tense, because if it actually worked, it would still work. Yes. So I get it. And I get why people think like factory reset settings should be low carb, because that's what loses body fat. But when men tend to get leaner, so let's say between like 16% body fat and lower, they actually do a lot better on higher carb and lower fat, the majority.
a lot of them think they're a special snowflake and that they can only do low carb and that carbs don't work for them. But that's mostly because their conditioning level from an aerobic standpoint sucks. So the more aerobically fit you are, the better your body can process carbohydrates and fats. But if you're highly deconditioned and you eat a ton of carbohydrates and your body doesn't have the proper metabolic processes to use them, it's basically, to like speak English, it's going to like kick it back out. And then that's where they experience water retention and they feel soft and fluffy. But they don't realize that it's actually the best energy source for them and the quickest one. And it really helps them in the gym. It helps them think. Like your balls and your brain use glucose. You need that if you're going to be thinking and making huge decisions all day long. So they resort to fasting, which completely zaps them of their energy. If anything, I see like guys don't take in enough calories because they have this fasting window. Yes. Or even worse, they train at like 6 a.m. and then they start their feeding window at like 12. I was like, oh my God, that's like the worst thing that you can do.
Yeah.
Like it's so bad. So it's getting them to actually eat enough for what they're wanting to do, eating enough protein, and then not being terrified of carbs. Because I can tell you, like, so many food logs, we have everyone track for a week just to see what their natural like point is. And fat can be around like 140 to 150 grams. Carbs are at like 60. And then protein is like, average, maybe body weight, maybe slightly under.
Yep.
So it's shifting that around to where maybe we prioritize and go a little higher in protein so that they're not hungry all the time. Bring fat down a little bit. Keep carbs low if they have a ton of fat to lose. So then once they become a little bit more conditioned, then we can start shoving carbs in. And then they feel better. They can actually use them. They're energetic in the gym. And then they make a much better dramatic transformation. But I think that guys go too low calories too soon. And then they just start to feel like shit. And then they rely on stimulants and things like that to give them energy because they're like, I have none. I'm dragging ass. So
you just touched on basically every guy I know. Like they all like, I'm intermittent fasting, I'm carnivore, I'm all this. I'm like, that's why you look the way you do, brother. Like, we got to fix this, and once they do, it's amazing. Once they start to prioritize protein and realize that they were, deficient in all these areas, it's amazing what happens, So I'm glad you said that.
Yeah. Yeah. But like everyone thinks like, women, we complain about the scale weight and we have body dysmorphia. And I'm like, oh, it is just as bad with guys.
100%.
Just as bad. They don't talk about it publicly, but they talk about it with us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
No, and talking about training. So obviously, I know you get after it in the gym. It's a very important piece of your life. Talk to me about how important, weight training is for folks, how you kind of, work that into your busy client schedules and, what's important, what's not important.
So I think many men think, how do I fit in cardio and training?
Yep.
When I don't have a lot of time? And it depends what their starting point is too. So if they have not done a ton of cardio or they hate it, we might have to start with more of that. So maybe you're lifting 3 days a week and then the other days you're doing cardio, and that's okay. Like that's enough, because many guys either come from the bro split days where they're doing 5 days of body part splits, or they come from like the CrossFit Orange Theory crowd where they're used to doing very intense, very low rest period, like workouts that make them feel good. So, because they're annihilated and they're sweaty and all that. So it's usually one of the two.
Yep.
So a good happy medium is pretty much like a 4-day upper lower split, which will satisfy a lot of things for guys. And then they have more time for recreational activities or spending time with family or getting the cardio in. Yep. So you can manipulate rest periods so they have more of a cardio effect, but you don't want to live there.
Yep.
So that's where a lot of guys, they go to CrossFit or they go to Orange Theory and they're like, well, why are I not shredded? Why don't I have muscles popping? And I'm like, you think a long rest period is 30 seconds. So how about we get some deadlifts or squats in and you're resting 3 minutes? And they're like, I can't rest 3 minutes. Like, what am I going to do? And I'm like, you're going to really wish you had 4 or 5 minutes? That's what, that's training hard.
Yeah.
So it's kind of changing the way that they've been doing things for a really long time because they've already adapted to that, to introducing them to like, hey, bang it out now, because then as more time passes, the leaner you get, the more dialed in, the more muscle that you put on, then the less you have to train.
Yes.
So they don't realize that until they get there, because it is a lot of work in the beginning. But once you get there, it's so much easier to maintain if you do it the right way.
Yeah.
So anyone can get you to lose fat really, really fast. Like, that's really easy. Yeah. But that doesn't mean it's going to stay off.
Yeah.
So muscle is like this glacially boring, long-paced process of building muscle without the traditional like bulk and then cut and then bulk and then cut, where you're sloppy and then you have to shave off a lot of fat. Because guys will do that and they'll use it as an excuse to eat everything. And then they get annoyed that they're soft, none of their clothes fit. So then they do emergency cuts, and then they drop all this fat real quick and they end up the same size that they were. It's this vicious man cycle. So
totally,
it's telling them why this takes so long when you do it the right way. Because you can do it quick, or you can do it the right way and keep it off forever.
Yeah.
And I've looked the way I've looked for the last 4 years, and now I can train. I can get away with training once or twice a week and still maintain what I look like, where I thought I used to have to like get at least 4 days and I would freak out. But now I'm like, all right, cool. Like, we can just kind of cruise now, because your body's like, we're good.
It's incredible, isn't it? I mean, I'll be 48 this month, and it took me probably 45 years of my life to figure that out. I did everything you described. I did all the diets, all the training, the short rest periods, the bulk cut, all that stuff. And now if I miss 3 workouts in a week, it doesn't matter. I'm going to look the same the next week, because I've figured out how to do it the right way. And I love what you just said. I mean, it's perfect for guys to hear, so.
Yeah, because it can be hard, because they like, there are guys who tell you what they think they need.
Yes.
And those are the tough ones that are, mentally like, they think they know. And I'm like, I know how to work you guys. So if that's what you need, then why are you here?
Yeah. Yeah.
If this has worked so well, then why don't you look the way you want?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that usually kind of hits them and they're like, fuck. But it's true, because if you buy a Ferrari and you want that thing taken care of at the level that a professional mechanic would do it, would you watch YouTube videos and try to outsource on the internet how to take care of a Ferrari? Probably not.
Right.
So there's no shame or harm in hiring a professional to get you where you need to be, and to also time collapse the results to get there.
Yep.
It's the same reason I have a coach. I've had a coach. We're going on 9 years now, and I've been doing this for 25 years.
Yep.
And people are like, well, why do you have a coach? And I'm like, because I can't see the objective viewpoint, and I can't see the trajectory. If I do it myself, I'm going to negotiate with myself. I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to let myself make justifications for not doing things or doing things. And then I'm going to just pivot and make decisions based off emotion versus logic. So everyone goes through that, where you're like, you wake up and you're like, I don't like what the mirror says. I should probably cut calories and then add more cardio. And then you end up in the same cycle that you were in before.
You nailed it. Absolutely. Well, and you do. I mean, I know you a little bit, and I see that you stay, I mean, you're a weapon, first off, but you stay lean year round. What kind of cardio do you prescribe, or what do you like? I mean, I know there's HIIT, there's sprinting, there's, low and slow. What have you found kind of works for you and for a lot of your clients?
For me, like, because I have a soccer background, I actually do enjoy running. Mm-hmm. And I'm weird because I live in Florida and it's disgustingly hot right now, but I love the heat and running in the heat.
Yeah.
I have an assault bike in my garage. I just started pole dancing last year, which is it's cardio, but it's also upper body. So I could actually get away with training upper body once a week now.
Cool.
So depending what our clients enjoy. So not everyone's like, oh yeah, I love running. Like, most guys hate running, and they're like, my knees and hips and all this. So most people do well with an assault bike. Like, an assault bike sucks. Like, if you do it right, it is hard. I hate it.
Yeah.
But it works, because you can actually go a lot harder than you can sprinting. Sprinting I love, but I feel at a certain speed, it's very dangerous unless you're going up a hill, and we don't have hills in Florida. So I do miss hills. I love sprinting uphill, but we just don't have them. But most guys are doing a rower or assault bike, or, if they have a spin bike or Peloton, they can get away with that. We have some people that enjoy running. But again, sprinting, like it can be dangerous, biomechanically is usually a lot of energy is wasted because people they don't know how to sprint. Like they have the same side arm and leg when they're like trying to run, it's just all fucked up. So unless you're an athlete and you know how to do it, then, but yeah, we don't make people do anything that they really hate. It's kind of like, well, what cardio are you willing to do?
Yeah.
And do you enjoy? So jiu-jitsu is one of them. Like we have a lot of guys that do jiu-jitsu and that's cardio. Like you don't need extra cardio. That is cardio.
No doubt. No, that's good. That's good. Well, you have an exciting event coming up this fall, the Silverback Summit. And how many years have you done that now, Ali?
This will be year 4.
Okay. And so tell folks about, I've experienced the Silverback Summit. It is freaking awesome. Highly encourage anybody to attend, whether, especially our medical practitioners and our clients that are running practices and getting to hormone optimization and just want to, learn how to optimize folks. I mean, it's absolutely fantastic. But Ali, tell folks what they can expect in year 4.
So this event is mainly for the collaboration of the fitness and medical sides. That's been the theme the last 3 years. So I'm like, all right, that's who we're going to market to. But we do have a lot of people that come from outside industries just to learn.
Yeah.
And I basically created it because there was no education for men's health at a lot of the main conferences. But excuse me, if you've ever been to a medical conference, you know how overly boring they are. So I'm like, I like fun, and I think most people like fun, so we're going to have fun. So I made it fun in a way where, there's no restriction on language, like, everyone's dropping F-bombs on stage. Everyone gets along really well, and everyone's, like, just cool, and we've got, like, theatrics and music, and, instead of just death by PowerPoint all day long, we've got quick TED Talks, and then we've got panels, and then we've got breakout sessions so that there's a high level of engagement so that people aren't just like sitting there falling asleep. And I tend to bring on speakers that are entertaining, that have like experience speaking, and they're not just like hugging the podium and then reading off their slides because nobody likes that.
Yeah.
So basically, we have from the TRT world, we've got from the fitness world, business world, nutrition. So every kind of element of men's health is covered, and that is the sole focus. And, we strongly encourage the clinicians and the coaches to talk to each other and form relationships. And a lot of people leave there having a whole new crew. They're like planning trips together and they hang out. And that's like the cool thing for me. I'm like, oh my God, everyone's on podcasts. Everyone's got like new business relationships, friendships. Like it's just a cool vibe. So.
No, I think you touched on it. I mean, not only is the content absolutely incredible, and you mentioned it's engaging, it's exciting, it's not boring, sitting through lectures. But what I found, at least attending the last year, was I just made so many great connections and so many just cool people that we're all like-minded, right? We're all in the same field here, and so it's just that's invaluable. And I highly encourage folks to attend. It is really a value for what you charge to attend. By the way, it's awesome. So give folks the details on when that is, and I'll include a link here and make sure folks are aware of that and how they sign up, but maybe some of the details.
So it's going to be November 13th through 15th in Orlando. The 13th is our VIP day, and that was an experiment last year that oversold, so we're bringing it back. And the VIP day is a limited attendance, but it's solely focused on business growth. So whether you're a clinician or a coach or anybody who has a business, but you really want to learn, okay, what do I actually have to focus on? How do I scale? How do I handle social media? How do I attract more leads? How do I craft an offer that is literally like my dream offer? That's what we focus on. And it's a very similar format to the main days where it's shorter talks and a lot of breakout sessions. We're covering lunch this year. And then the main 2 days is going to be just a bigger version of that, but not so heavy on the business growth. That's where we break out into a lot of the TRT, a lot of the other medical related discussions, and then the broader topics. And then instead of doing a social every night, I'm going to do dinner basically on Friday night for everybody. because I realized like socials are great. They last maybe 2 hours because the food runs out and then everyone's starving and it's like a weird time. So then they all leave to go have dinner with like their crew.
Yeah.
And so everyone's gone for 3 hours. So I was like, well, what if we just brought everybody in one place and we had a buffet dinner where there's plenty of food and it's like a wedding where you're just there for the night, you're networking. And then when everyone's done, you can just hang out in the lobby and talk, or, you know, if you want to go out, you can. Last year, a lot of people just hung out in the lobby and just talked, which was great.
Yeah. So. And it's on the East Coast. It's in Florida this year. It was back in my backyard in Arizona last year. But for the East Coast folks, it'll be easier this fall. So that's great.
Yeah, it honestly, like I live in Florida, so logistically I should have done this every year. But, you know, it's hard to satisfy everyone. But I will say, like, we do have people who come from as far as Australia, UK, Europe, Canada, Alaska, like from everywhere.
Yep.
So please do not ask me to have it in your backyard in like Philadelphia. Just get on a plane and come.
No one's going to Philly in November. It's not happening.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Well, this is awesome, Ali. I know you're super busy. I really appreciate you making time. Is there anything you'd like to leave the audience with? Anything from, you know, just overall thoughts on the industry to Silverback, anything that you'd like to leave our audience with?
You know, for the clinicians who are listening, you know, a lot of coaches are way more educated and open-minded than you may think. In the past, we did have that very meathead, like we know everything type of attitude, but now there's a lot more health coach education out there. So they do want to be involved and more involved in their clients. However, legally, they can't do what you guys do. And I think that we need each other so that the more relationships we can form together, the better off we'll be as an industry. Because like, I don't see anything as competition. And I'm always big on that because some of my best friends in men's health have the same coaching demographic as we do, and they speak at Silverback.
Yep.
I want everyone to win. So everyone from all clinics and, you know, all different coaches, like that's really what Silverback is about, because the more that we can work together, then the more men that we can help and the greater impact that we have. Absolutely. I love that. It's the abundance mentality. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Well, I will include a link to the Silverback Summit. How do folks find you, Ali? Instagram is where I'm most active at the Ali Gilbert, ALI. Cool. It's a cool page too. You got a lot of good stuff on there. Thank you. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining. Appreciate you coming on. Thank you, Jeff. All right. Bye now.